Hello everybody. I just want to make sure this is going. No, I've paused it. No, I haven't. Oh, back, play. I'm really technical. Hi, my name's Sue Roth and I'm the Executive Director of Arts Project Australia. And yes, we've come a really, really long way. 2 days to get here. Totally worth it. We're sure we know already. The vibe from all of you is fantastic and it's really exciting to be here. I'm going to be presenting with James McDonald, our studio manager, who will be up in a minute, Paul Hodges, one of the artists that's come with us, and Kathy Staunton, another artist who's come with us today. But I'll just do the boring stuff and they'll talk about art, I think. It's not that boring. Arts Project Australia was 40 years old last year. We're probably the oldest supported studio in Australia, and our mission is to support artists with intellectual disabilities, promote their work and advocate for their inclusion within contemporary art practice. And I think really that's where we come from, that what we're doing is contemporary art practice as we are here. And I'd like to thank Elizabeth and everyone at Project Ability for having us here, for finding the money to do this, for the warm welcome, and so far I can just say your staff are fantastic, so thank you so much for having us. When we started, we weren't an organisation that actually had a studio. We were an organisation that went to, at the time, institutions and collected work so that it could be exhibited in a professional manner. Our founder, Myra Hilgendorf, was an artist and she had a daughter with a profound intellectual disability, and she felt that the artwork that her daughter came up with was really professional. So that's how we started, and that went on for 10 years or so until one of the founding committee said, you know, the work we're getting from the institutions is really poor quality. Materials, the paper's really bad, the paint's really bad. What if people were creating artwork with good materials? So we started a studio program for 2 hours a week, and today we operate 5.5 days a week. We have 115 artists, not every day, about 40 to 45 every day working in our studio, but 115 artists over the week. We own our own building, sadly not the size of this one, but it's still not bad. We put on around 14 internal, as we call them, exhibitions in our own gallery space every year, and indeed Paul Hodges, who's here with us, has a small solo show on at the moment at Arts Project called Hello Sailor. In addition to that though, we really look for opportunities for our artists to exhibit externally. So in both commercial and public gallery situations and all that sort of thing. We look for them to receive national and international representation, and we invite external curators of high calibre to come in and go through our stockroom, which has 30 years worth of work. We collate and document the artwork for our artists and ask them to come in and curate and work there. So we do those sorts of things, I guess, particularly to advocate for inclusion within contemporary art practice. We're just about, this time is a really timely invitation for us because we're about developing an international strategy. As you all know, Australia is a long way away, and we have to travel a long way to get anywhere. But we're trying to find ways that, well, we don't all have to get on a plane to do it, but we just happen to do it this time. We held an International Outsider Art Conference in Melbourne last year, and it was great that Elizabeth and Tanya were able to come out and be a part of that. And as I speak, our gallery manager is heading to the United States, where one of our artists, Terry Williams, is having a solo show at White Columns Gallery in New York, and another artist, Alan Constable, is in a show opening at Fleischer Ullman Gallery in Philadelphia. So those sorts of things are exciting and will continue. But what we're really going to talk about today is a project we've done. We're really big on collaboration, and I love what the presentation we've just had, because in fact it reflects exactly what this is about. Although last year, the year before, we got some funding to do a project called Knowing Me, Knowing You. And it was about 10 of our artists working with 10 external contemporary artists who didn't work at Arts Project, who had their own arts practice. And the concept was simply 10 artists matched with 10 artists, so 10 pairs of artists, 12 months, and they needed to be an exhibition outcome. We didn't tell them what they had to do, we didn't tell them how they had to do it. Each pair was very, very different. There's a lot of images behind me which are showing you some of those pairs, but I'd like to introduce our studio manager, James McDonald, to talk about this project at this point.
Thanks, Lee.
I'll have to use that mic.
The syncing's not going particularly well.
Oh.
That's absolutely fine.
Sorry about the syncing.
In organising the partnerships between our studio artists and the external participating artists, it was important to give the relationship space to grow organically. The nature of the creative partnership wasn't prescribed or directed by project curator Lindy Judge at all. Her role in the early stages was simply to introduce the pairs of artists to each other. Just pause for a little while. The studio artists were selected and invited based on their experience and depth as artists, their interest and enthusiasm for a project of this nature, and their capacity to be able to manage a year-long time frame and some of the logistical considerations of such a project, like flexibility and travel. Some of the artists already shared professional or personal relationships with each other already, either through working together on previous projects or through the external artists' earlier associations with the organisation. For instance, prior to Knowing Me, Knowing You, Paul Hodges had worked with the Sisters Hayes on a video performance inspired by their shared interest in Napoleon. One of the Sisters Hayes, Christina, had also been a staff artist for a number of years in the studio at Arts Project. We're going to hear more about that a little bit later on when we introduce Paul and talk with him a little bit more. Fiona Taylor and Angela Cavalieri had never met before, Knowing Me, Knowing You. To help the artists build their initial connections and to see if they actually liked each other, we had an informal information session / pizza and drinks evening, which was organised to give everybody a chance to mingle, chat and get excited about the project. It was during this mixer that Angela and Fiona found their common ground. In this case, the realisation that they had travelled to a number of the same countries, like Italy and China, and that they were both drawn to the specific architecture found in these places. That would serve as the basis for their collaboration over the next 12 months. As another example, Chris Mason and Nathan Gray had also worked together previously. Along with fellow artist Chris O'Brien, they produced a site-specific installation at Gertrude Contemporary Art Space in Melbourne. Unlike that collaboration, this collaboration would be for Nathan more of a one-on-one experience with Chris. Nathan knew, though, through his work with Chris, that it was going to be important to find a way to work with Chris as opposed to for Chris, given Chris's very definite ideas and idiosyncratic working methods. To try and level the creative playing field, Nathan and Chris decided that they would collaborate using a medium and method neither had any previous experience in. So Chris and Nathan set about making babies using mould making and casting techniques inspired by their mutual admiration of the hyper-realistic sculptor Ron Newark. One of the more interesting collaborations was that which took place between abstract painters Rebecca Shabilia and Stephen Asquith, who were chosen to collaborate despite each having art practices that weren't necessarily geared towards shared process. Stephen and Rebecca got around this obstacle by cleverly deciding to work on two large-scale canvases simultaneously but independently of each other. Each artist started a large painting, creating images relating to their own specific interests. And then when each was happy with the current state of that painting, the canvases were rolled up and swapped. The correspondent artist would then respond to the image and add to it in whatever way they felt suited the painting's evolving story. Rebecca and Stephen worked in their own studio spaces, independently of each other and without verbal communication, and yet managed to conduct this visual conversation over a number of months, incorporating about 4 swaps per painting. The two artists eventually met up again to discuss the work and to evaluate whether they felt they were satisfied with the results and whether the pieces were resolved. In theory, this process could have lasted a lot longer if the time frame had allowed such investigation. Oh, we're in sync. Excellent.
Yeah.
Knowing Me, Knowing You has been only one example of collaboration between arts project artists and external counterparts. Because of this, over time we've learned a lot about the practicalities and pitfalls of this kind of project. With the benefit of experience came the understanding that the choice of external artists needed to be based on a number of factors, and whether or not the external artist's visual aesthetic would make a complementary pairing was just one. These days we know that interviewing prospective participants about their work habits is absolutely essential. For example, are they committed to meeting with arts project artists frequently and on a regular scheduled basis? Will they be comfortable working closely with someone who may have a very fixed idea about what they have in mind? Will they be able to be patient, adaptable and open-minded about creative direction? With many tangible outcomes arising from a project that really didn't place an emphasis on such things, the biggest success for the artists was having the experience itself. Artists working out of their comfort zones, working out how to work together. All these different challenges meant that the work produced was new and exciting, especially for the artists themselves. Most thrilling of all, though, was that nearly all the artists who collaborated in Knowing Me, Knowing You are now looking for what the next instalment is of the project, and hoping that they will be a part of it once again. We'd now like to introduce Paul Hodges, who was one of the artists involved in the project. Welcome, Paul. And we're going to interview Paul.
Speak louder.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Your first name.
Paul, could you tell us how long you've been at Arts Project Australia?
About 14 years, and I think I started in 2001.
And how did you find out about Arts Project?
My mum's partner at the time, Des, was listening to the radio, and there was an ad announcement about Arts Project, and he mentioned it to my mum at the time, and my mum Marilyn remembered taking me to this sort of smallish building in Westgarth, and the old building, and I remember walking in. There was a nice blonde woman, smiling, welcomed us and told us to have a look around, and I remember Megan taking a liking to me, and I remember sitting down there after being there half a day, and my mum said, "So, do you want to come here?" And I said, "Oh, I'll think about it." She said, "Oh, yes, you do." So I signed up, and I remember in 2001 only doing it once a week, and then I remember slowly the following year going twice a week, and then as the new building opened up, going 5 times a week every day.
I'm glad you were forced into it, Paul. Why are you an artist, and what do you love about it?
I love to express myself through art. It's a friendly place, and I love painting. I have recently moved on to computer art, and also practice printmaking.
Tell us about the subjects that have dominated your art practice over the years, Paul, and maybe why they have dominated.
I think I like very traditional landscape because I keep on doing them and I like them. I like recreating old masters like Monet, Matisse, and also I've studied at RMIT doing life drawing, and I think making up pictures like castles and other subjects.
Now, Paul, you were a part of Knowing Me, Knowing You. What was it like working with the Sisters Hayes? You worked with 3 artists who work as a conglomerate.
It was very different actually, because the Sisters Hayes history was in, I think, costume, performance art and theatre. And they knew I was interested in Napoleon, and they talked me into at first doing this sort of dance at the NGV in Melbourne, and I was meant to be the character of Napoleon, and I remember doing this type ballet on Napoleon, which was very I think I was really tired at the end.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's
You're working very hard.
Sadly, we couldn't bring you a clip of that this time, but another time.
The collaboration with the Sisters Hayes is good because they've got a performative element to their own work, and you might like to tell everybody that you also, apart from Coming to Arts Project, have a performance side to who you are. Do you want to talk about that?
I practice and train as classical ballet. I think it's probably very close to what the professional schools are doing. It's a lot of emphasis on posture, and I've also done other styles like contemporary dance, bit of jazz and hip hop, but mainly ballet, because I think it's a very good style. Even though it's old, it's still relevant to the modern world.
So did you bring some of that into your collaboration for Knowing Me, Knowing You with the Sisters Hayes?
Yeah, as they wanted me to do the Napoleon, they also talked me into doing like a religious type dance, and they I remember them taking me to the NGV again, and I remember they bought me coffee and that day, and then they walked around the NGV master's room, and they were looking around, and they saw this painting which was about a tablet or something about some god, and they said, "Oh, do you like this painting?" And I said, "Yes." So then I think they had the idea of recreating this story of Pan. So I did this dance of Pan and with the girls.
You taught them the moves.
Taught them the moves.
Now, Paul, I said to everyone you've got a small solo show on at the moment called Hello Sailor, and certainly there's one of the images in there. Can you tell us about Hello Sailor and the subject? And it seems like a bit of a departure from your usual subject matter.
Yeah, it's very different actually. I must admit, I wanted to do something fun to cheer Arts Project up,
Because we were so sad.
yeah, long year, and everyone there was very tired from working flat out for 2 years, and just wanted to do something fun, cheer people up, and bring them to something different.
So you put the work together after getting the exhibition. That was your decision, not for work to be chosen from your collection, but to make new work for this show. How long did it take to put the work together?
1 month.
Wow. Yeah, it was pretty intense, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was with being drilled.
Yeah, there was whip cracking.
Yeah, whip cracking and, you know, not allowed to make coffee and or walk downstairs.
We're tough.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish with Paul. What do you think the future is for you as an artist?
I'd like to do maybe bigger scale paintings, maybe like more professional type painters. I'd probably like to maybe work with a fully fledged professional artist, and I think maybe get the paintings out there in a more professional way.
And what about subject matter? Any new themes on the horizon?
I was going to think of animals actually, because I've never done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think I don't know, maybe more contemporary type ideas.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks.
Paul.
Been a pleasure. Thank you all
Thank you.
very much. Now, our next artist is Kathy Staunton, who a number of you may have met. If you haven't met, you've probably noticed Kathy today. Kathy's profoundly deaf and does have some issues communicating, so we're going to do a bit of translation for Kathy. This is Kathy, and she was also involved in Knowing Me, Knowing You. Kathy has been an artist at Arts Project Australia for over 20 years, and she is probably one of our most unique and eccentric artists, and very, very committed to her own ideas and what she's doing, and we've got some of her artwork and her themes running behind us. She's had a challenging trip here, 24 hours over 2 days on the plane, and she's going to say a few words about the artwork that is behind her. Yeah, try that one. We'd like to get Kathy down to the Acropolis while we're here, because she loves cemeteries.
So Kathy also loves poems.
So is Matthew here, the artist? Yes, very much likes your paintings.
These are all staff members from a Christmas theme. That's me and Kathy. This is me, obviously. There's a lot of me and Kathy on. She does like me.
This is actually a commission Kathy did for Carnival of Mysteries for Maura Finucane, a very well-known cabaret performer in Australia.
Yeah. I think that's Gwen Stefani.
It is.
Yeah.
We've got to find one of these phone boxes while we're here.
So if you've met Kathy today, you'll know that computers and robots are very dear to her heart. And robots die apparently.
Kathy communicates best through social media, so she uses Facebook extensively. I know she's friended a couple of you already. If you would like a new Facebook friend that is constantly in touch with you, see Kathy while we're here.
Catherine's mum doesn't know how she knows so many stories of the Bible, because I don't think they were churchgoers when she was young, but she knows a lot of the stories and reproduces them beautifully. Neat. Oh yeah, I've got a tattoo of one of them. Yeah.
Kathy appears in a lot of her own work.
Ladyfish, not mermaid.
Luna Park is a big amusement park in Melbourne, very famous, and Kathy grew up in St Kilda, the suburb where this is located, and Luna Park features in a lot of her work.
Again, you can see the self-portrait here as well.
Luna Park, the CEO of Luna Park has actually purchased a lot of the Luna Park work, and it features in her home.
This is Kathy's retrospective solo exhibition last year, the year before now.
And we have some catalogues with all the work that was in this exhibition and essays about Kathy's work if anyone would like to go one and see us later on. We painted the whole studio midnight blue, the gallery midnight blue. It was quite a celebration of over 20 years of art production. Thank you, Kathy. We're just finishing with a couple of little clips. Paul, we did a half an hour documentary on the Knowing Me, Knowing You project, but these are just two clips about the work that Paul and Kathy did in Knowing Me, Knowing You, and then we're done. Thank you. I hope the sound works.
Assistant Tay started working with Paul officially in 2010, started to work on Napoleon, which was a kind of group devised project collaboration that we did, inspired by the fact that, well, Paul looks like a little bit like Napoleon and was painting Napoleon, and Napoleon was on at the NGV, and we went there and we just got really inspired by a lot of things and decided to do a dance video.
Paul was able to explore his love of dance with that work. So their second video is similar in it. They chose a painting from the NGV collection and kind of brought that painting to life, and they all played different characters.
It was fun, even pretending to be something that you're not in your practice, like pretending to be a ballerina.
And yeah, we probably wouldn't have thought of being in a dance film ourselves, and that was a big leap, trusting Paul.
And having him show us what he does, and even just participating in what is a really big part of his artistic practice.
Yeah.
2010, I was invited to be involved in the portrait exchange. I spent quite a lot of time with Kathy. We became quite connected during that process. We really bonded and got parallel lives almost because of our age and our name, and somehow we've connected as artists. I love my glasses, and we both wear glasses.
Catherine's always fond of saying they have a lot in common, and the thing that they decided to explore with this exhibition was their childlessness.
The work that we've done for the Knowing Me, Knowing You exhibition looks at the human-animal relationship, but also the maternal instinct, and how, I guess that how the pet could be a substitute for the child, and how, you know, your emotion and your feelings are shown towards that pet. You know, your loving relationship towards that pet is quite an intimate relationship.
Catherine uses some clothes, baby clothes that her mother had kept for her own, hopefully, grandchildren, and she uses those clothes to dress up her dogs. And Kathy does the same. So the two videos are side by side. It's a very poignant kind of exploration of childlessness, and by two very different women, and childless for probably two very different reasons.
We didn't know how to edit out that last little bit. Thank you very much. We're really looking forward to meeting and hearing from you all.